Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table podcast with PJ and Mike. Now, please find yourself a seat at their table.
Hey guys, this is Mike.
I'm PJ.
This is episode 11.
This is episode 11. This is going to be a real fun episode for us today. So what we're going to do is we're going to review two of our favorite movie franchises from our past. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how we would reboot that franchise if we were given the reins and the studio said, hey, how would you make this movie for a modern audience? What would you do? That's what we're going to talk about today on these two movies.
Yeah. We kind of know, PJ and I, we kind of wanted to pick franchises that are, we're not doing a Batman or a Marvel. Right. We kind of want Star Wars. We kind of want to start something kind of fresh.
Right, exactly.
Something that deserves a little bit of a well-deserved reboot. But, PJ, I want to ask you a childhood memory.
Sure.
What movie did you see in theaters, and when you left, after the movie was over, you said, man, I want to make movies. What movie was that for you?
So, I didn't see it in the theater. The movie came out in 94, so we were only like 9 at the time. I probably saw it a couple of years later, probably on like Showtime or something like that, or HBO.
Yeah.
Is Clerks.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Makes sense.
So I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. Most people who know me know that. I like his movies. I like his style of humor. The first Kevin Smith movie I remember watching was Mallrats.
Yep.
I actually remember sitting in my living room just watching TV. My sister was in the living room with us, and she was the one watching TV, and Mallrats was just kind of on in the background. And I remember watching that and liking it because there was a lot of comic book talk in that movie because the main character, Brody, was a big comic book fan, right? And then I really liked that, and then I started like getting into like the idea of, oh man, there are movies like for me, like about characters like that, like comic books like me, and that's kind of how I started going down that rabbit hole. And then I found Clerks. And for me, look, I'm not saying it's a cinematography masterpiece or anything like that.
Yeah.
The dialogue in that movie is probably among the best dialogue in any movie. But the idea of it was two dudes hanging out in a store where they worked, talking about movies. Like they talked about Star Wars.
What did you like better, Jedi or The Empire Strikes Back?
They were cursing a lot, the same way that like I remember cursing like when we were in school. We would, we'd talk and we would, that's how we would speak. And it just like spoke to me on that level. And I was like, just so enthralled that somebody could take not a big movie set or a big movie budget and make something that people loved. And that's what really got me into the idea of like, maybe I can make a movie someday. And that's why I did go to film school for a little while. I didn't finish, but I did go and try and learn the art of making movies. That for me is like the reason I'm a movie buff or I like movies. It all comes back to really pre-Clerks, I was just a kid that liked watching movies. After Clerks, I was a person that said, not only do I like movies, I think I could do this.
Right.
And that really clicked something in me. Like I like the idea of being creative. I like the idea of being able to tell a story, and that movie did it for me. And to this day, I'm still a huge Kevin Smith fan. I see all his movies. I go to his live events that he hosts, and it's really because it shaped that movie and his movies, shaped my personality, the way I look at certain things. So I'm a big fan, and that's the reason why.
Oh, that's a great
How about
choice.
you? Do you have a movie like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many movies that inspired me when I walked out of the theater. But I remember being super young. I saw Terminator 2.
Great movie.
In theaters, and I don't know, it must have been 6 or 7. But I remember when that movie was over, I left, and all I was just like, oh man, I want to be a director. But I remember just like, oh wow, I want to make movies. I want to be an actor. I want to do, I want to make a movie. I remember just saying that as a kid. I just remember like just everything was magic. I was like, wow, how did they make that guy metal? You know what I mean? And I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger as a kid. By that point,
he's larger than life. Yeah.
At that point, I already saw Predator 100 times. I saw Commando. I probably shouldn't be seeing these movies so young, but like, I just knew I knew at that age, I knew certain things weren't real.
Right.
And at that point, I didn't know about Santa Claus. I thought Santa Claus was still real, but I knew Arnold was an actor.
You mean Santa Claus isn't still real?
Yeah. So I just remember like seeing that movie and like, I'm like, wow, I want to be creative like that.
Yeah.
Man. I want to do that, and
that was a mind-blowing movie. And it still holds up as one of the best movies ever made.
Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, like as you get older, you start learning more about like acting, and when James Cameron, you can say we want with the Avatar movies, but like the dude was just a regular guy. He used to be a truck driver, and he kind of got his, he had a dream about Terminator, about robots with a gun.
And look what he did with that dream. So,
and in all of his movies. Honestly, that guy has a great catalog of films. It's hard to really say he has a bad. If his Avatar's his worst movie, that's really not that bad.
Right, exactly. And people love it. A lot of people love that movie and think it's his best.
It's fine. It's a fine movie. It's hard to really break its balls. It's fine. It's entertaining. I think Terminator 2 is still his best.
I think so too.
In terms of like story wise.
Well, when you create something as good as Terminator 2, for the rest of your career, all you can do is try to live up to Terminator 2, and nothing can. So yeah. But that guy has, like you said, great catalog, and if his worst movie is one of the best movies of all time, then he's doing something right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's some movie magic. So PJ, we'll start with you, man.
Okay.
What's a movie that you franchise or you want to review and then eventually?
Sure. So the movie that I picked is Dick Tracy.
Oh, I love it.
It's a great movie. What was it, 90, 91 in that era? Mm-hmm. Directed by Warren Beatty, starring Warren Beatty. Mm-hmm. Produced by Touchstone, I think it was. It was Disney, but it was supposed to be released under the Disney banner, but they released it under the Touchstone banner because it was had some adult language, adult
so
themes.
Was Roger Rabbit. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. For the same reasons. It was because the subject matter wasn't exactly all ages. It was mostly all ages, but whatever. That's why they chose to do it as Touchstone. I think when you watch that movie, the first thing that pops out is the colors.
I was just about to say, man, absolutely.
The colors are just so they're bright. They're the yellow trench coat and the yellow hat for Dick Tracy, or his partner Sam Catchem in the bright orange. But the villains are all in the movie takes place in like I think 1938 is the year that movie takes place in. So they're all in like those zoot suits and all, but they're brightly colored. Yeah. The backgrounds in those movies are all painted. So they don't do that anymore because now you have CGI. That was maybe one of the last movies I think that actually
but
used.
That still has like a mystique to it.
It does,
and it adds. I always talk about tone with film. It doesn't make you like disconnected from it.
No, it doesn't.
It makes you more.
It makes you feel like you're more in it.
Kind of like a Sin City.
Yeah,
we know that's all a bunch of CGI and all that shit.
But it still works so well.
Mm-hmm.
And the plot of the movie is not the deepest. It's Dick Tracy is trying to lock up the organized crime leader, the mob leader, Big Boy Caprice, which is Al Pacino.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the cast, you got Warren Beatty, great actor. Big Boy Caprice, great actor. With Al Pacino, Madonna's in that.
Yep.
As Breathless Mahoney. Mm-hmm. It's a great cast, and even Dustin Hoffman is in that as Mumbles. Mm-hmm. So you have these top-notch movie stars. Let's say it again, movie stars. Mm-hmm. They're not just actors. These are people that when you look at on the screen are larger than life.
And they're kind of hidden too because they're the makeup.
The makeup, right? It's all their performance that's selling it. Mm-hmm. And the movie takes place in, like I said, the 30s, but it feels timeless.
Yes.
That like you always talk about tone. The tone of that movie is perfect.
Yep.
The plot of the movie. It's an old school cops and robbers, good guy versus bad guys. You can't not get sucked into good guys versus bad guys. You want to root for the cops, but at the same time, like you said, the practical effects, the makeup that they use to just change the look.
And we know especially with their facial, like they make their super big foreheads or big lips, whatever the heck it was. We know it's a little cartoonish, but
it works.
It still looks more real than CGI. I'm not against CGI. Like use it with anything with. And parameters with limitations, but to me it still looks good.
It looks great, and
they look scary too,
right?
Which makes it more.
And it's a compelling story. I think you said a couple weeks ago in one of our episodes, there's no romance in movies anymore.
Oh yeah,
this movie filled with romance. You have Tess Trueheart, his girlfriend, is trying to tell him she's gonna leave if you don't marry me. We've been dating for so long.
Yeah.
He can't get it through his head because he's like a grizzled old veteran cop. Then you have Madonna as Breathless Mahoney trying to seduce him, and there's a lot of that. There's that romantic sort of element to it, that love story element that they have a kid in there for kids to relate to, Dick Tracy Jr. But when he meets him, he's just like a kid on the street stealing wallets.
He was like an orphan.
Like an orphan, exactly. And so kids can watch that character and be like, oh, I could be like Dick Tracy too. The same way that there was something for everyone in that movie. There was action. Warren Beatty did a lot of his own stunts, so you could really focus on the actual actor doing. a lot of times if you see stunts and it's a stuntman, they're all like further away because you can't look, especially in that time frame.
Yep.
But there's one scene where he jumps like off a roof building onto like a street lamp post, and he smacks his face into the street lamp. He wasn't supposed to because he's not a stuntman.
Right.
But that's really him doing it, you know, and, and that adds to the movie. I think when you have the actual actor doing everything, and Warren Beatty is a big fan of Dick Tracy in that franchise. He still owns the rights, which is why we don't have a new Dick Tracy movie right now. But every few years, a fun fact about Dick Tracy. Warren Beatty has to produce something with Dick Tracy as the star, or he loses the rights to the movie.
Right.
So on like Turner Classic Movies, like this year he did one. It was called Tracy Zooms In, and it was like Dick Tracy on a Zoom meeting, because if he doesn't produce content, he loses the rights. Because anyway, just saying like he still loves that character so much that he holds the rights onto it. But and Danny Elfman did the musical score. You can't go wrong with an Elfman score.
I think Dick Tracy came after Batman, right?
Batman was 89 and Dick Tracy, I think, was 90. And then I think Batman Returns was 91. So it was in that same block of time.
Elfman was big he still is, but right
really
then
big
he was
at
really
that time.
cooking. And I think also with 89 Batman, it also like kind of like the real fast with the spring of like you had Dick Tracy, Batman Returns, Darkman.
Yeah.
It was like a Sam Raimi, Liam Neeson kind of weirdo kind of movie. He did the soundtrack for that, so I too.
Yeah, so he was big in that time. So that's like peak Elfman.
Yep.
So you had a great score that really was something worth listening to. And again, the thing about that movie that really sticks out is the uniqueness of the characters. Like the villains. The villains are great. Flat top, and it's just it's a gangster with a flat head.
Yeah.
Or Littleface. Littleface was a normal sized person, but his face was supposed to be like no bigger than a nose.
Yeah.
So what they did was practical effects. They got a little kid to play the face, and they put this little kid in like an adult sized suit sort of a thing.
Right.
So when you looked at the head, it was just a little face.
Right.
Practical effects, but it looks real. Like you said, CGI, that would look like a cartoon.
Yeah.
And these are the things that stick out. And for me, one of my favorite movies, I think of all time, and I think it's one of those movies that I put in the class of as close to perfect as possible for me.
Yeah, and I feel like that movie doesn't get enough love for some reason.
It doesn't.
I don't know why.
It's overshadowed by Batman.
Yep.
Overshadowed
and it's really
by
not
Batman.
a bad movie. I know people give it like I know I love IMDb. That's my favorite. One of my favorite sites. I like it better than Rotten Tomatoes. I can't stand Rotten Tomatoes, but I think it's like a 6 out of 10.
And it deserves
IMDb.
more.
It should really be like a 7.5. Really, that's the most fair.
It lives in the shadow of Batman, and that's being in the shadow of the Bat's a hard place to be. But this movie is just as good as those Batman movies, if not better. And the character, Dick Tracy, I think, was created by Chester Gould in the 30s. So he's a long-lasting character. One of the first characters with an actual unique rogues gallery of villains.
Yeah.
You know, the character is great. The look of the character is timeless. The colors, everything about it. It speaks to people on all ages, and I think it's a great movie. So that's the movie I chose to reboot. And I'll go into my plans for that later, but why don't you tell us about the movie you chose?
Yes, and PJ, that was a lovely choice. So mine, it's a little bit more fresher, but I only try to reboot it somewhat recently, but it's actually The Mummy.
Okay.
With, Brendan Fraser, and, that one. He is Rick O'Connell. So that movie came out, I think 99, which is crazy. And I don't know which, the one with Tom Cruise was just a mess.
Oh, it's terrible.
I know they were trying, when we talk about how we would remake it, the reboot, and they were trying to make it. I like the idea of a monster universe. I like that idea. I'll get into that later on, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners have already seen The Mummy, so I'm not going to do a whole plot. So basically, Rick O'Connell and Rachel Weisz, they team up because Imhotep the Mummy has come back from the Book of the Dead, and they have to basically put him back in his place. But the things I love about this movie is kind of really similar to Dick Tracy. It has a timeless, classic Hollywood thing, an adventure film, and a time period film. And I think of reasons why the Tom Cruise film didn't work, because stories like that don't work in modern day. In certain horror films, but that, you need classic. You need, swashbuckling and romance. You need those kind of colors, that kind of bright oranges and those. You don't need, today everything's dark and black and blue and blah,
It's like an Indiana Jones kind of vibe.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I love the things about this movie I'm going to talk about a lot also is the music. It had that real Egyptian, I didn't get the composer's name, but it had that royalty kind of louder than life. Like when you saw the mummy come or the face comes out of the sand, you really felt that bigness. And I feel like movies today don't really have that. They kind of, and I love Hans Zimmer. He's one of my favorite, but he's very much more of an ambient kind of writer. Where someone like Danny Elfman, you actually hear the theme. There is a recurring motif or Papa the Band. I mean that everyone Batman, bam,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Or John Williams when he did Superman.
Yeah,
you don't have that much anymore. And like I said, but Hollywood, they're a bunch of copycats. So they take Hans Zimmer and then they get another composer who's cheaper to produce.
Something similar.
Everything has the Inception horn.
Yeah.
And all the trailers. But anyway, back to The Mummy. Like I said, it has romance, adventure, monsters. I mean, classic Hollywood, treasure, costumes. You just talk about costumes with, Dick Tracy. Just like, just even like, Brendan Fraser, he's wearing like I think he's like wearing like kind of like somewhat leather pants or like kind of chaps or something. He has like a gun on the side, and the other guy is from Bruce Bigelow, Male Gigolo. He was like the Egypt's like protector. He had like the sword, like a tattoos on his face. You know what I mean? Like just characters. You know what I mean? You felt it. There's just a real simplicity to it. And then I actually want to talk about the next two, the trilogy, but really more so, not so much the third one. I'll get into that. But the second film, this movie is so underrated. This is a great movie. It's a great follow-up. And which leads to my next point is some movies are kind of defined by how they end. And I think it's mainly because of the awful, horrendous CGI with The Rock.
Yeah.
Okay. Rock did not, and he has barely any lines in that movie. I know they put him on there to promote it, but he's in the beginning of the movie, which he has awful acting. He's like on the sand. He's like going raw, like on his knees. I mean, that's horrendous acting. And like I said, I think certain movies are just kind of defined by their ending. Examples like the movie Last of the Mohicans. That movie that's with
is that Kevin Costner on Last of the Mohicans?
No, that's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank right now. Who directed it? Oh, Michael Mann. There we go. Okay. That whole movie's good, but the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes, oh my God, that movie is amazing. That's what saves it. Like you can even argue Jedi, Return of the Jedi. It's very good, but that ending really, between Vader and that, takes his mask. I mean, that really makes it. So, unfortunately, I think that CGI kind of compromised the
integrity of
exactly. But that movie is great. There's nothing really bad about that movie. Them getting to it. Rachel Wise dies in it, but then he revives her, or she gets mortally injured. And I guess if I had to remake that scene, I'm surprised when they're making these films, they always do reshoots, and I don't know if they had to meet a deadline, probably, but how do you not you think about about Predator, the first one, they were doing John McTiernan, he always films 75% of the film, and then he films the last quarter to fix. He does like a rough edit, but they were like, this costume ain't looking good. They had Jean-Claude Van Damme actually look awful. Then they got, it's like Stan Winston. Mm-hmm. And they made obviously the iconic Predator. Right. So why don't they I just feel like they couldn't. Look, we can always play, retrospect, but they should have just said, okay, look, this doesn't look good. Why don't we just have The Rock? He's already huge, physically.
The gigantic human.
Just make his face look, even do Predator, put some mandibles on him.
Right.
Maybe make one hand, all right, fine, a pincer from a scorpion. And then maybe you have he has a giant pet, scorpion, and they're fighting. That's all you had to do. If you want your CG in, okay, there, that'll turn you on. But make him look very grotesque and moldy, like a mummy himself, up, and then then you beat him. Maybe you do something like the Crow. The only way to beat him is he's invincible. As soon as you kill the Crow, like in the Crow, right? You kill the scorpion, then now he's mortal. Now you can kill him, But anyway, I think it's such a totally underrated movie because it's really a great film. The Mummy 3, look, they didn't have the same director. Stephen Sommers do it. I know he produced it, but Rachel Weisz didn't come back, and that's not a good movie, honestly.
Yeah, you lose the vision of the director, and you lose the actress. That it's not the same. It's not the same type of thing anymore.
Yeah, and I admire that they went to what was it, Jet Li, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was a good concept. You went to a different area, and you have to tell the story, but it just a long story short, like I said, I'm not gonna I didn't ruin the franchise. I think that thing was dead on arrival.
But they could have ended that at 2. You didn't need the third.
Yeah. But
it's a bit of a cash grab to go back to third time.
Yeah, but I think I think The Mummy is, like I said, it's just classic Hollywood. You could do so much with it. And I think both those films are really good. Both really, really are still great. So, Mr. PJ,
Okay.
you had your opportunity to redo.
Dick Tracy.
Yeah, well, how would you do it, man? I'm curious.
So, I'll talk a little bit about casting. I didn't cast everybody, but just a couple of ideas.
Of course.
Right? Your main characters. I was torn between 3 different people for Dick Tracy. And depending on the tone and vibe of the film would be who I would pick. If I wanted something a little bit grittier, a gritty look, I think I would go with a Josh Brolin as Dick Tracy.
Oh, okay.
If I wanted something where it's a more, suave, debonair Dick Tracy, I think I would pick John Hamm.
That's a very good pick.
Right?
That's a very good pick.
And then here's my third pick. If you're going to make it, I don't want to use the word campy, but if you wanted to make it a little bit lighter.
Yes.
Right? But still have someone that could pull off grittiness. I think the right person for that could be someone like a Will Arnett.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could see him being a grizzled cop, but also he could be a little bit lighter tone. So those are the
very good picks.
So those one of those 3, depending on the vibe of the movie, I would pick one of them. His girlfriend, Tess Trueheart. I think you need someone like a Scarlett Johansson. Kind of has a timeless quality to how she looks. She's super good looking.
Right.
But she doesn't look fake to me like some of these more modern hot people look. Like she's not a Kardashian or anything like that. She's right. So that would be his girlfriend, Tess Trueheart.
You know who I think would be a good girlfriend for her? For him? Have you seen the new Harry Potter Fantastic Beast?
Yes.
The girl who's like has like, I forgot her voice. She's like kind of smoky, not the brunette. She's like a strawberry blonde.
Yes.
She has
that look
she has
too.
very
That
classic
bombshell
look.
kind of look. Yep. So Big Boy Caprice, Sylvester Stallone.
Oh.
Especially after seeing him in that I can't think of the name of the show now, but that new mob show that he's in on Paramount. Anyway, he plays a more mob guy, and you can see that he actually has the chops for that.
And he's older.
He's older. A little bit older.
You need a gangster that's kind of older.
Exactly.
And gruddy and been through it all.
And then another villain, if you were going to bring in like a Mumbles, I would get like a Benicio del Toro.
Nice. Perfect.
If you remember when we did our Star Wars episode, I said how much I hate The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But he was in that movie with a character with a stutter. And so he could kind of pull that off. But I think he's a great character actor. And I think
he did the same thing in the Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
Which made his character's really somewhat of a throwaway character, really. But he said he purposely kind of made his character have a crazy talk to make him more important.
Yep.
And it worked.
So I think he could do that.
Great choice, Mr. PJ.
And then his partner, Sam Catchem.
Yes.
I picked John Goodman.
Oh.
I've seen him play FBI agents in movies, and I think he can be funny. And he could also be serious. So I think he toes that line. And then just one more casting choice I picked for Breathless Mahoney, who was Madonna in the original movie.
Right.
As a younger character, but she, because in the original movie, Warren Beatty's like in his mid-50s, and Madonna's in like her late 20s or early 30s, and they make that movie. I don't know if you know her or not, but I think she has the right look. Would be a Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney. What is she? I know that
She's
name.
She's on a bunch of HBO shows. The HBO show where they all do drugs on their kids.
Oh,
Euphoria.
My fiance is watching that show right now.
Euphoria. Yeah, okay. She's the hot blonde.
Okay.
She's the hot blonde one. She's in like 25 or something like that now. So she's kind of got that youngish. She's not in her 40s or 50s. She's like, you could, because the idea in the movie for me. So here's what I would do. Right, black and white movie. Very very reminiscent of a Sin City, like you said, or I don't know if you ever watched Will Eisner's The Spirit. Black and white, but with pops of color, right? So it's all black and white, but Tracy's yellow coat and hat, those are pop. The red tie pops. Sam Catchem, he's a detective, but he wears like the orange hat, and he has the orange suspenders. Like the colors would pop off. Like that's how I would film it, and I would give it like a lot of heavy shadows, like a noir type of vibe, right? And I would make it an anthology movie. Maybe 4 or 5 different 20-minute short films that encompass a whole movie. but I would make it feel almost like an old school movie where you used to sit in a theater for. We didn't do this because we were way too young, but like in the 50s or whatever, when you would go to a movie theater and you would sit there and you would watch a movie short, a cartoon, another movie short, and then the feature, and then you could sit there all day, right? I would kind of make it feel like that, and I would set it in a time period that looks timeless. I wouldn't call it the 30s. I wouldn't call it 2020. All right, you wouldn't be able to identify which era this takes place in because you'd want it to feel timeless, almost like a Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Right. So the cars look like old cars and they have Tommy guns, but then something else will be super high tech that you couldn't have, you know what I mean? Make it feel like it could take place whenever. And then the different things for the anthologies, you might have one where Dick Tracy is over, he has to arrest the nightclub owner. And maybe the nightclub owner is one of the other Dick Tracy villains. So maybe it's like The Influence is one of the villains in Dick Tracy comics. He's like a bigger guy. He ran a casino. So maybe Big Boy Caprice owns a nightclub, but really he operates it as an undercover illegal casino. Yeah. And that's where you would meet like the Sydney Sweeney character of Breathless Mahoney. She's a performer or a waitress or something in the club. And then Tracy comes in, does what he does. He winds up busting the illegal casino. He arrests everybody. And then you might have another piece of the anthology where he arrests the Tramp is another Dick Tracy villain, but he's like a street level kind of criminal, right? And maybe somehow, he's working for Big Boy or whatever. But what I would do is, even though Big Boy is the main villain and he's the piece that ties all of the anthology film together, and the movie would obviously end with Big Boy getting arrested, right? That's the climax of the movie. But that thread ties all the anthologies together. Everything he does is he's busting someone that is part of the gang until he can get to the main villain. But I would swing it so that at the end you find out that Breathless Mahoney, the young, hot, whether she's a singer, lounge singer, whatever, is actually the villain. And that's how you could set up a sequel, is that you thought you got the big bad guy of Big Boy Caprice. But it turns out it was never him in the first place. Like, she was really pulling the strings, and maybe even Big Boy doesn't know it. And that would be like your twist. You're like, oh my God, I was so focused on Big Boy Caprice because all of these mini anthology movies point to Tracy having to find a way to stop Big Boy. And that would be my swerve. And again, very noir vibe, kind of dark and shadowy, but the pops of color, maybe a voiceover like you'd see in old noir films. And again, it would want it to feel timeless. Like, I don't want it to feel like it's stuck in any given, time period, because you want to be able to watch it whenever and feel like it's relevant.
Right.
So that would kind of be my little synopsis of how I would do a Dick Tracy movie.
Very lovely, PJ. I would get tickets to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like you said, I could picture like the film noir type thing, that detective, like Humphrey Bogart kind of thing, and Maltese Falcon, and
you don't see films in that genre anymore because, like, it's like you said before, everything is so reliant on CGI and big effects, and you don't need that to make
mindless action.
Or mindless action.
That's not advancing the plot.
Right. You don't need that. There could be some action for sure, but the story needs to drive what's happening, and that's what sucks.
Especially him being a detective, really.
Right. Exactly. Show him doing some detective work, and then. You could still find those romantic elements because you're still going to have his girlfriend, Tess Trueheart, in there. I would almost start every anthology scene, right, with him on a date with his girlfriend and getting called away. Right. Oh, they need Tracy. He has to leave her again at the... That's how I would start every one. Like, they're about to go out to dinner. They're on a date. And then, the watch, he has the watch. The watch goes off. I got to go. They need Tracy. They need to make a bust, and he has to leave her there. Or I would start everything like that, where it just shows, like, he's so into being a cop, and he keeps leaving his girlfriend behind, be like a running gag. And that's sort of my idea for it.
Lovely.
How about you? What do you got for The Mummy?
So... mine wouldn't be a direct remake. So my main character wouldn't be Rick O'Connell. This would be a whole new thing. I would call it The Curse of the Mummy.
Okay.
Which probably our name already Universal has, or whoever owns those rights. But it's gonna have the spirit of the Mummy. So I still want it to be like the Indiana Jones kind of lighthearted.
Right.
But I want to have action in it, but I want to vamp up the horror, and I'll get into how you would do that. But in terms of my casting, I said for this movie, like I said, for me, I still want to have a serious tone though. You know
Okay.
what I mean? And I think an actor, that's what I like to kind of, in my head, some cast people who you don't think of them as, oh, I don't know if they could do a comedic flair, but that's something that kind of works out. You know, like sometimes you think of like Robin Williams and, oh, he could do drama or vice versa.
Right.
So actually, I would have my hero, my film, actually be Michael Fassbender.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah? You know, I think yes, he's handsome. He could be serious, but I think you kind of need. He could be. I think he could be kind of sexy, honestly,
Right.
and kind of more charming in that kind of way. You know.
He was Magneto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glorious Bastards. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great, and he had to be that intensity too, when he needs to. I think you kind of need that in that kind
Right.
of hero. I think his love interest would be. I love her. She's one of my favorite actors. She's lovely, Emily Blunt.
Okay.
I think she's very pretty. I love her in what's it called? Tomorrow. Oh my God, the one with Tom Cruise.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my God.
I can't think of the name
Edge
of
of
it.
Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Okay.
I think she would be great in that. I think the person who would play the mummy, he actually somewhat quasi played the mummy, if you could say, is actually Oscar Isaac. I know you kind of somewhat played that kind of figure in X-Men Apocalypse.
Right.
I think he kind of pull off. I know you don't think he. For me, the mummy should be someone who's like very huge in stature. Should be kind of a regular dude. And
Right.
Becomes you know, and more whatever.
He's a
He is.
great actor.
Yes, exactly. And you know, you could be intense. You know, he's not
Yeah.
gonna fuck around. You know. And then for this, I kind of want, like, for my film, like I said, more of an adventure. So, and I have more casting I kind of get into, but like, in terms of my story is that, you know, they have to, you know, they want to get treasure, this kind of thing, and they have to go to this, whatever pyramid it is, whatever, I don't know, it's not
Right.
King Tut, some other,
Right.
whatever pyramid it is.
We'll
They
make
have-
up a new mummy.
Right, exactly. And they
Right.
have to travel there, right? So they have to make this, they have to kind of, almost like the Oregon Trail, and they have to get
Okay.
a band of people to do it. Okay, we got to get some knuckleheads, and of course everyone's kind of racing. They found out there's some kind of gold there, I don't know,
Right.
whatever. You know? And there's just a myth that there's the mummy comes back. You know, there's just like, oh, that's
Right.
voodoo, whatever. You know, so one of the knuckleheads he gets is, like, I think he would do well is John Boyega. I know the guy from Star Wars played
Okay.
Finn. He played, because he actually has a British accent, so
He
that
does.
might work with this, kind of be like snarky, you know, and I feel like he'd be a person you can't really completely trust, because you kind of want this one too, like they're getting people I don't really want to,
Right.
they have to band together because each one knows how to work together. One has a special,
Almost like an
one-
Ocean's 11 kind of feel
Yeah,
where they're putting
each
the
one
gang
has their
together.
own
They all
thing,
have a
exactly.
specialty and
Yep.
a personality. Okay.
And he was actually in a movie called The Block, which I recommend, where like aliens come down to London, and he has to, you know, he has this really, he actually has a very thick London accent,
Okay.
and I think it would work kind of well with his character, kind of be so much of a dickish, you know.
Right.
And I think you want to call your villain maybe like Idris Elba, you know, this other, and it's nothing like political ones, you know, from the nothing like
Right.
that. It's just people who just want money or fame. Everyone has a different reason why they go
Right.
there. And I kind of wanted this to be, I think it's underrated. It's not perfect. It's cheesy, but you ever seen the movie Congo?
Yeah.
Okay, so I like that fact. I think the whole movie, I think the end, as I talked about before, but how an ending can really define a movie. I think that whole beginning, that first 3/4 movie is actually fun to watch.
Yeah,
They're
it really
in the
is.
river, they're fighting like hippopotamuses, they're getting parachute in or whatever heck it is.
The monkey can talk.
Right, they're meeting, Winston from the Ghostbusters. What's his name?
Ernie Hudson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's placed another, South African accent. He's great in that. Anyway, you have them kind of, they're traveling there. Remember, they're going down the Nile River? I don't know, whatever. And that's kind of where you get like more of like the kind of fun adventure kind of thingy and stuff like that. But when they actually get into the pyramid, that's when you ramp up the horror.
Okay.
So, I don't want to say like a quasi like evil that was going to be silly. Not that, but you make it like you're just basically getting lit by just like torches. You know what I mean? And then as they're going through there, maybe like all of it becomes like a labyrinth. All of a sudden the thing closes behind them. Now they're stuck in there. Now it's maze, and something trips it,
Right.
wakes up with the mummy. And you make it really horror now. Like you still kind of make it funny,
Right, but there's a lot of jump scares. And,
Yeah, jump scares.
Yeah.
You can have like a cat walking, like how is
Right.
the cat still alive? And that
Right.
Egyptian kind of may have a snake rolling around, and then you kind of just have a slow mummy come to life and have him really like stalking kind of thing. And anyway, they have to outwit him,
Right.
But really kind of ramp up the the horror. And I think from there you can really, for the next, you're going to make a sequel, now the mummy breaks out of there. At the end, you see a hand go through the brick, I don't know, whatever, something like that. He has to find his wife, and the other,
Right.
I don't know, whatever. But I think, for me, like, it's about that tone. That's the most thing. You got to have it's going to have a little bit of a lightheartedness, but, like, you think about Indiana Jones, there was moments you're like, oh, this is serious
Yeah.
now. It's about getting that. They're not going to undercut like Marvel with this like a joke after a serious moment. Really kind of keep it. Me and my vibe was like, I was thinking like Indiana Jones, even Spider-Man, we're talking about that kind of, serious tone. But it was, when you had the Green Goblin coming, like, oh shit,
Right.
it's getting real. Even like a Predator tone, even a Fifth Element, that kind of adventure. It's like a sci-fi, but still,
Right.
that kind of tone. And for me, I actually also went into who I would like to direct it. So I have a couple. I feel like for this, you need some old school guys.
Okay.
I don't know if they would come back, but I would love to see Robert Zemeckis. Obviously, he did Back to the Future and Forrest Gump and Polar Express, but he did Romancing the Stone. That kind of put him on the map, and that was basically a really super romantic comedy of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I think you have the spirit of it. If he didn't want to do the job, I would actually have James Mangold, which is doing actually the new Indiana Jones. But I feel like he has a really good flair for, atmosphere. He's done great movies like I love Copland. That's an awesome film, underrated.
Copland is great.
Mm-hmm. But he did, Ford versus Ferrari. He did 3:10 to Yuma with Christian Bale, like a Western.
I think he did Logan,
Yep,
right?
he did Logan. He did Walk the Line. And I just really feel like he can kind of get that, like...
He's a great storyteller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know, like, the rumors for Indiana Jones right now is not great, and I think that would be not really his fault. Maybe the fault of the studio up his ass.
I think it's the fault of we probably didn't need another Indiana Jones also.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How much can we make Harrison Ford do these days? But
Exactly. And my last guy who I think I directed, I don't know why this guy gets picked on a lot, is Ron Howard. I understand he did Solo. I don't know. That movie's you can't blame him. He came in halfway.
I think that movie's actually underrated. I think it's much better than people give it a hard time. And there are some pieces where it's disjointed, but he did a good job on that movie.
Right, we had to go over there and clean up someone else's mess.
Yeah, that's the hard job to do.
But I think the reason why I chose him is just because I think you needed an older guy to kind of make this kind of old school, kind of classic kind of film. Because then if you have a new guy coming in, it's kind of it's not gonna have the right vibe. They're gonna make it Marvel,
right?
Tiki Watiki, that guy's name. You're gonna have him turn into a whole.
It's a joke. The whole thing becomes a joke. You need someone that can keep it serious.
Exactly.
Lighthearted's okay, but you need someone who can match the right tone.
Yeah, and think about the Jungle Book, which I thought it could have been a great idea, or even the Pirates of the Caribbean had a good vibe to it, until they got,
Well, until there's like Pirates of the Caribbean 47, and you're like, enough of this.
Yeah, but and I think another important thing that would really help the film, my remake of the film, is a great composer, and I would pick, not surprisingly, Alan Silvestri. He did Back to the Future. I think he just understands tone. I know I'm a broken record, but I think it's really important because I think he would give it a really dramatic theme, something whimsical like Lawrence of Arabia. But I don't think he doesn't get credit, especially for his soundtrack for Predator. Because everyone thinks of the beginning like the pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-dun. It's like very militant and all that. But no one talks about the atmosphere he has when Predators, when the thing they have like that kind of like a bongo. It's like I think they could really imagine that inside of the pyramid, and you have that kind of his kind of touch like that.
Right.
Oh my lord.
Add to the eeriness of being in this darkly lit,
and it would have that classic feel.
Yeah.
And I think it would really ramp it up. That's my Curse of the Mummy, and I think, like I said before, turning to a dark universe. Kind of what you said too. You kind of make them all somewhat connect. You could have if you're done with the Mummy, you do something where you wouldn't have Michael Fassbender, but you have in the same universe where maybe you start with Dracula. Anyway, there's a missing link, and maybe it all ties back to the Mummy, or I don't know, whatever. I don't know. You have the Wolfman, Victorian times, blah 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 blah. You kind of have a loose thread. Maybe at the end, maybe Frankenstein still. I'm going to the monsters here, but maybe at the end, you want to take. Place maybe now it's maybe the 40s. Frankenstein's still running around.
Right.
And you have to use the equipment from the Mummy, the Curse of them. I don't know. You got to take them down. I don't know. But
there's a thread that you can use to connect everything.
Yeah. You don't have a Marvel thing where you have Wolfman.
It doesn't have to be a crossover.
Yeah.
We don't have to put together the monster Avengers and they fight some other monster. You don't need that.
Maybe at the end you have a detective.
Right.
And they look through historical pieces about all this wacky shit. There's sightings of a Wolfman, and maybe this can take down Dr. Jekyll. I don't know, whatever. It has to take down Frank. I don't know. Frankenstein's been around forever. I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe Dracula's still alive. He's walking around kind of like Interview with the Vampire kind of vibe. Some shit like that. But you can do it. With the right tone, right thread, try not to do too much. Each one has their own time to shine, and I think you can do it.
You sold me a ticket. I'm there.
But anyway, folks. on Instagram or Facebook. Write us what movie franchise you would redo. Or reboot.
Yeah, let us know what movies you think need some more love that you haven't seen in a while and that you'd want to bring back. We'd like to hear it.
Mm-hmm. But PJ, before we cut loose, I have a pop quiz for you.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, you actually already answered some of these
All
questions
right.
for you. I was going to say, who directed Dick Tracy?
That was Warren Beatty.
Yep. Okay. Who played Mumbles? And,
That was Dustin Hoffman.
Okay. All right. So maybe you. Okay. So these are other ones, not particularly with Dick Tracy, in particular, but what other famous gangster movie was Warren Beatty in?
What other famous gangster movie was Warren Beatty in? I'm trying to think.
I can give you a clue in a couple of seconds.
I don't think. I'll take a clue. I don't know.
They were a famous couple.
Is it Bonnie and Clyde?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't realize he was. Okay.
Yep. Good, PJ. Bonnie and Clyde, which is a really good movie too.
Yeah.
It's very iconic. I talked about for how a movie ends. That movie, I don't want to spoil if you haven't seen it. The ending's very iconic. Oh my god. In the movie, Dick Tracy, Manless is played by Paul Sorvino. What other gangster film is he most well known for?
Was he in the Godfather franchise?
I'm not sure. I don't
think
have
so.
that, but
Okay.
this movie's,
It's not Goodfellas, is
yes,
it? It was? Okay.
Yeah, he plays Paulie.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
And when Dick Tracy was released in theaters, this animated short was released before the film played.
I know it was Roger Rabbit.
Yes,
I can't
yes.
remember the actual name, but it's like Roger Rabbit and the roller coaster.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Good, man. Wow, you even got this specific one.
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit had 3 different shorts.
Yeah.
He had the roller coaster one.
Yeah.
There's one where he has to go to the hospital because Baby Herman got hurt.
Yep.
And then one he works as like a mountain ranger. He's like a park ranger.
Well, Roger Rabbit's one of my favorites. I know he's one of your favorites
Yep.
also. And it's the same like Dick Tracy era.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like that same kind of like old school 30s investigative, detective kind of look. But I have 3 questions for you.
Oh my gosh.
I think you kind of touched on one of them also, but I think you'll get it. Who made their acting debut in The Mummy Returns?
Oh, The Rock.
The Rock, yep. What year did the original Boris Karloff Mummy premiere?
I think I'm wrong. 1937?
You're very close. It was 32.
Oh!
Very, very
Is that
close.
crazy that came out in 32?
32.
And it's
Isn't
still like iconic.
It's
Damn.
still, it's just still something people see in their minds.
And it's still good. The movie
Yeah,
still
it's
holds
still good.
up.
And when I think of the Mummy, I think of the Boris Karloff
Yep.
Mummy first. It's just crazy. Isn't
Those
that?
Universal monsters, man.
So
They're just
good.
Freaking classics.
And then the last one I wrote down here, I think you'll get this one. Which successful Brendan Fraser movie helped him land the role of Rick O'Connell?
He's a successful.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I might know this. For some
Okay.
reason, I might be wrong. I'm thinking about his catalog of films. Is it George of the Jungle?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, George of the Jungle wound up being so successful at the box office that they
made
were
him
like,
that
well,
part.
we should
Wow.
get Brendan Fraser to be in this movie. And
Which is crazy.
It's crazy because George of the Jungle, I like that movie. I think it's a fun movie. You would never watch that and say he should be in an action adventure mummy movie. But just because it was successful, it got his name, I guess, out there as a leading guy, and that's why they cast him in the role.
Yeah. Real quick with Fraser, I think a film that's kind of forgotten. I think it's a very good film. I think it's a great film. I think it's very good. Maybe like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And actually, it has another famous gangster actor is Joe Pesci. It's called With Honors.
Okay?
And actually has a hit song that Madonna sings in it.
Ties it all together.
Well, not the movie itself, but
Right,
it's a
right.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's called I'll Remember. Yeah.
Okay.
He plays like a college student, and Joe Pesci's like he's a homeless man. He's also very bright. Blah blah blah. They try to reunite him with his son. Anyway, but yeah, that's a pretty good movie to But I'm surprised because that was like a very dramatic role.
Right.
It's amazing how George of the Jungle, the silly movie, got him the role.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think
why
he's a
not?
great actor. I think he's underrated. I don't know. People don't put him in the same category as some top name actors. And look, is he going to be as big a star as a Tom Cruise or a George Clooney? No, but I really don't think he's that far off in terms of ability and getting you to believe in the characters that he's portraying. I think he's a really good actor. He was supposed to be Superman at one point, but that movie never came to be. But he was at Comic-Con in New York Comic-Con last year, and tons of people wanted to meet him. He had a line, down Manhattan. Like, that's how many people wanted to see him. It was he's he's very likable. He plays a lot of fun characters, and I hope we get to see more of him. He's been in a couple of movies and TV shows recently. I like Brendan Fraser, and I like The Mummy, and I like the way you said you would reboot it.
Thank you. But folks, thanks for listening. We really appreciate you guys from all around the world. We check our stats. We see people all around the world, and we listen that download us, and we can't thank you enough. So just kind of throw that in there.
I mean, fans from global, Italy. I've seen Bangladesh, Kenya, Ireland. Just the list goes on. And I don't know how we wound up in those countries, but we thank you for listening to us.
Yeah, and we invite you next week at the same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. Please visit PJ and Mike's website, coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com for more information. Follow the boys on all social media apps. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.